All right, teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the show. Welcome to the #1 show on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. Thank whoever brought you here. And shout out again to Podmatch for making this reviving this podcast, so to speak, and bringing the guests back. For a while there was just a solo episode show, but I found a great platform and it's bringing me just some incredible people. To my regular listeners, here we go again, doing what I do, bringing you guys nothing but gems, nothing but just great people that are here to serve you in some way, shape, form, or fashion. We have David Buck, the founder of the Infinity Lifestyle Design Program, and he's really triggered me already in the couple of minutes I had to get to know him and listen to him and stuff like that. Because instead of talking about time management, he talks about optimizing your time and how to help with turnover. And you guys know I'm all about that. So I might actually be just like you guys in terms of just listening and taking in a lot of the lessons and the things that he's gone through. So David Buck, welcome to the show.
Well, what an honor to be here and to also sing the praises of Podmatch. It makes it easy for us as guests to find great podcasts like this. So I'm a fan of it as well. And again, honored to be here.
Great to have you. And the thing is, you mentioned something right before we started recording that I want to make sure I want to kind of keep you in that place, because one of the things that I do in the way I serve business owners now is I tell them, look, if you adopt my system, it's going to lead to less turnover in your industry. It's going to lead to, one of the difficult things when it comes to starting a business is getting the people right. And you have extensive experience when it comes to helping with turnover. You have extensive experience in the business world and figuring out ways of properly utilizing your time and giving those lessons to business owners. So talk a little bit about your background and, how you started in the business, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. So I have had most of my career has been in business development, a fancy word for sales.
Yes,
I've been in
sir.
sales for most of my career. And I learned early on that these amazing, stunning good looks or lack thereof and charisma and personality wasn't getting me very far.
Mm-hmm.
And that I learned that I needed to be better prepared than my competition. And I found I could do that through how I used my time. And by using my time well, I then helped my clients also indirectly or directly use their time well, which then generated and landed to my success.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, after a really long career, I saw that there was a need in the marketplace for that. And so I started the Infinity Lifestyle Design Program. Two elements there. I help people in career, individuals, teams, and businesses improve their productivity and time management. And then I also help people prepare who are like, okay, I want to go into retirement. What the heck am I going to do with my life there? And so those are the two elements. But to speak directly to turnover that you had brought up, I have found throughout my entire career that it is much better to invest time in nurturing the relationships with your existing employees and to either find out the unique ways you can make them productive, right, versus having to continually try to fill a position and the time and the effort that it takes to do that and the cost that if you just invested a little bit more time in nurturing versus trying to rehire, you would probably find you're going to have a lot more opportunity for you to, as a leader, to manage your time well as well.
So what are some practical examples that you can share about when things weren't being done the right way? Because you had mentioned you worked for Hallmark and you saw people in it as like a factory. And I come from a sports background, so I know exactly what you mean. It's like a damn factory, people coming in and out every single season. And it's because the coaches, it's a lot of turnover with the coaches, and then the relationships with the coaches get sour. And then when you translate that into the working world, that point about making sure you're getting production from the people that are in your building currently, I think it'll be very valuable for you to share any examples of people doing it the wrong way and then how you help in regards to, making sure that problem gets fixed.
No, that's great. And it's a really good question. I look at it first as and I've been guilty of this myself, is you want to fill the seat. You're desperate to fill the seat because it's creating challenges for you. Right. And so either you settle on who you choose to hire or you don't share all the full expectations. So I think the first thing you have to do as the leader or the hiring manager is to say, set realistic expectations for the job and feel free to communicate that to all the candidates you have in front of you. Because if they choose to step away themselves, you've saved yourself a lot of time and money.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the second thing that once you set those expectations, you challenge the candidate themselves. Are they ready to live within the expectations that you're going to set them? And you unpack that in the hiring process before they get settled in. Then if you say, okay, I found an amazing candidate, they're a good fit, they like me, I like them, it's a good culture fit, then you owe it to them to have a significant and sustained onboarding and training program for them. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot just throw them into the job, even if they seem like they have the amazing skill sets. Everyone needs to be nurtured through the process. Everyone needs to be encouraged through it. And so I just say, have a robust program, onboarding and training. And then finally, let them know that they can tell you when things are wrong and set the environment that says they are comfortable to tell you this is not what I expected, so that you can either coach them through their apprehension or quickly determine they actually weren't the right fit, so that you're not pulling them along for months on end because they're a body that's filling a seat for you.
Right, and they can be spending their time doing something so much more productive, and it's on you as a business owner, as a manager, and you have to use the term. You got to be an asshole sometimes. You got to be an asshole. You have to be an asshole, a nice asshole. I like to use the term nice asshole, an asshole in which they know if they come to you, you're about your business, and they're comfortable enough to where, hey, I'm going through something at home, I'm going through a personal situation, and I know I don't want it to affect your bottom line because I know how seriously you take your business. I've seen so many business owners, so many of you guys listening to me like right now, who try to be their friend. You try to be buddy buddy with them, and that's making. I want to make sure I'm making the distinction very clear for you guys. He does not mean be their friends. He does not mean it's time for you to just be buddy buddy with everyone. When you take the role of a manager, it's at this point where you have to be a leader. All right. And one of the other things that I also want to add to what you said is making sure you have measurables. You know, right? Measurables. When you say set expectations, measurables are like they're like first cousins. All right. Expectations, and this is the measurable, and this is how it affects the bottom line to my business. So the employee, the person that could be an employee, everybody knows the expectation and what it does for the overall business. So many people get caught up in the how much I'm making, how is this going to affect my salary, how am I going to pay my bills, me. And if you have that kind of environment, seen it happen personally, and I'm sure you have too, David. Businesses fail when everybody walks into that building and they're only thinking about their own personal issues. The whole thing is going to go, they're just going to go to the money, or they're just going to go and do whatever they have to do. They will not care about the betterment of the company. So I want to get into a little bit about your concept of time. It's time optimization, because so many times too we hear, and this correlates a lot when it comes to finding the right people for a specific position. When it comes to how you are able to develop a concept and where it's not just time management, because time management can be kind of regurgitating something that they heard from a guru or whatever, but optimizing your time when you're making money, that changes the ball game, man. That changes changes a whole ball game. I'd love for you to share a little bit about how you develop that concept.
Well, I found myself, so one of the first things I do with a new client is I say, just let me see your calendar. So they'll
Yes,
pull up
sir.
the
Yes, sir. I
calendar.
love that. Right.
And in
Mm-hmm.
most cases, I see a calendar populated with a bunch of meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and then the rest is open space. So I say, so tell me what's going on in that open space. Well, I'm going to try to work on a project here. I'm going to do this. Okay. So as you as the entrepreneur, what happens when one of your employees says, I need your time, and at 1 o'clock, when you're working on strategy, when you're thinking about what do I need to do for the company, and then an employee with a very legitimate real problem wants your time, what do? Well, I usually try to stop and then figure that out. And
Mm-hmm.
that, to me, time management in essence is reactive. I'm
Yes.
going to react to the situations that come to me. And typically, what do? We want to solve the problem, particularly if it's someone else seeking our assistance. And so we drop what we do first in, first out.
Mm-hmm.
And that creates a situation where you're constantly scrambling. I want to flip the script. I want to tell an entrepreneur, leader, or anybody that says you proactively plan out your time. You decide what's important to you and you get it on your calendar. Doesn't mean you're not going to change, doesn't mean you're not going to adjust, but it immediately puts you in a position where you are now either establishing the rules around how you're going to expend your time, or you're going to be able to negotiate when someone wants to take your time to solve their problem.
Right.
And that negotiation can be a hard no at that point, but usually it's let's wait till later when it works out for both of us. And so it's reactivity with management, it's proactivity with optimization.
Now, how do you also teach that not only to the business owner, but also maybe let's say there's an employee listening in, or even it's somebody like an agency, somebody that is working a company and it's kind of their own business, but they're still working for a company and things like that when they're trying to start up their own thing. Is it the same throughout? Because when I'll give you actually an example, when I used to work at an LA Fitness, I was a sales associate. I started off as a sales counselor, and I had a sales manager who actually gave us the option and said, look, if you make 3 sales within the first hour, you don't have to work for the day. It was
Wow.
like, yeah, he gave us that. Now, I unfortunately I never got the 3 sales, but just the principle in itself, like he was going to go away from the LA Fitness's normal rules, and instead of us being there 8 hours a day, look, you guys get your 3 sales for the 2 hours, then you're good to go for the rest of the day. And that if I would have liked the way LA Fitness's structure was, I probably would have taken them up on that deal. But that concept and that type of thinking, I think, is incredibly important, because imagine that 3 sales and then you go work out for the rest of the day. And that ultimately is going to help the sales numbers. And you don't have to have people there for 8 hours a day making a bunch of calls and really actually probably just wasting a bunch of time. So how do you go about teaching it to multiple like sectors or multiple people that are working in different areas?
Well, I love that example because he made a leading indicator.
He
You
did.
get 3 to do the result for the sale, which so
Yeah.
many people don't do. They think of the end result and not the needs of what has to happen to get to that end result. So I do love that example. So I have a self-assessment that I work with each one of my clients takes. So regardless of their position within the company, and that self-assessment looks at areas of task administration or management. It looks at meeting protocol. It looks at organization. It looks at internal focus, external focus, and personal care. When they take that, then I get to understand and they get to understand what are their strengths and what are their opportunities. We all want to push on our strengths, and I don't discount that, but I start with the opportunities, because for me, time, it's all interrelated. So if I am, for example, distracted because I have a poor inner focus, yet I also procrastinate and I'm late to meetings. I usually find if I tell that client, let's start with your most one, if that's distractions, your most pressing need, the rest naturally improve. Because if I'm not as much distracted, I know to get to the meeting on time. If I'm not distracted, I'm not delaying on something that's important to me. So through that self-assessment, that's right. So if I tell anybody, start with what you know you're challenged at. If you know you're constantly late at meetings, that's one of your big time management challenges. Focus on that. Say, what can I do not to do that? And you'll find subsequent stuff improves as a result.
So is the assessment something that a person takes on their own, or is there an accountability person that is given the assessment so they know? Because what I've actually learned too in the industries I've been in, fitness, heavily involved in fitness, is I actually had a colleague who, no matter what, listen, David, no matter what, every single day, this was ridiculous, he would show up at least an hour late, every single day. It was no holds barred. It used to drive me fucking crazy. Being a sports guy, being a person that I would get yelled at for not being early enough to meetings, to know that somebody could actually have a job and show up late every single day. And the owner did absolutely nothing about it. Nothing about it. Every single day he'd show up late and he would never, ever get disciplined. So I'm wondering now, when people take this assessment, is there some sort of an accountability piece that is there, because I think it's such a huge need, because you get a lot of these owners, you get a lot of these managers that want to be nice and they feel like they can do everything themselves and they're afraid to actually call people out on their shit. So where does the accountability piece come in with your assessment?
Great question. I do it in two ways. First of all, if it's a smaller team, if I'm working directly with a smaller team, depending on how the relationship works out, I said, let me be the accountability partner with the
Exactly.
teams, because then I can directly work with them. But if it's a larger team and
Mhm.
it's just logistically, or whether their budget can't afford me to be involved that much, then the second avenue that I do is, for the manager, I create a team report,
Yeah.
so that as all the individual assessments roll up, that manager gets then a team report that identifies 1, 2, 3 opportunities that either all the team or predominantly team members are suffering through. So then the manager has a benchmark to say, as a team, we stink at organization. And so
Yeah.
therefore I can then coach the manager to say, here are the elements that you can do to
Mhm.
improve the team's organization. I can say, let me audit your environment to
Mhm.
see if there's things within the environment to do that. But ultimately, I ask individuals to say, find your own accountability partner, someone you can trust, not necessarily a friend, because friends sometimes are too nice. They're kind of, oh yeah, I'm sorry you missed doing that. Find
Right.
someone who's going to give you a true assessment of what you're doing, and
Mhm.
someone that when you talk to is not going to tell you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear.
Yes, and that piece, especially listeners, that piece is so very important. David and I could sit here and talk for hours upon hours about strategy, tactics, and so many things you can be doing better in your business. Without that, first of all, self accountability, but also the accountability from somebody else to say, look, you need to do better. You need to step it up. You need to be here when you need to be here. All of that stuff is, all the talk is just going to go in one ear and out the other. Accountability and taking action. And you actually just mentioned something that I want to definitely get into, is you mentioned your budget, and who can afford you. So can you kind of speak on who would be an ideal client for you? Who are the people that you strive to serve and things like that, that, you really feel like as a company or as an individual that you can help the most?
So on the in career side of things, meaning those people, those businesses where are in career, typically I'll go from sole proprietor, so I'll work directly with an owner, a
Hmm.
solopreneur like myself,
Right.
on up to national accounts or large retailers. I've worked with teams there. It's all customized because I go back to my system is not do these 10 things
Hmm.
and life is going to be great.
Right.
Because everyone's unique, every situation is unique, and so it's all customized with me. And that again starts with my assessment, and I build the program off of that. So whether you're a single individual or you're a large company,
Hmm.
I can do all those. Typically, what I like to do, particularly with large companies, is
Right.
break it into teams of like 15. You
Right.
get too big and you're going to have outliers, people who are like,
I
I
don't really.
manage my time well. Why do I have to do this?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
by breaking it into chunks, I find those individuals.
Mhm.
I find there's a common sense where somebody does that. So it depends on the size. It's all customized though, and your plan should be customized to you.
Right. Now, when you say customize, is it going to be, the sales team does this, and then there's the management team, and then there's maybe the janitorial team? How do you break down which teams that you actually work with or are gonna to serve?
So typically you do work with teams that are interrelated, so like a sales team,
Mhm.
you'll have a marketing team. But inside that, I have done a blend of both depending on the size. I've taken leadership teams through it. So they're all the CFO, COO, all that stuff.
Mhm.
What you find is everybody has their own unique challenge. So a sales team, it's all across the board. Nobody's strengths are the same, uh, because even though sales is customer facing, there's some attributes with that.
Right.
How they manage their time can be totally different. I mean, that's when I was a sales leader,
Right.
I always felt I was not the best pure salesman. I had amazing salespeople underneath me who
Mhm.
were so relational, did so much better than I did.
Mhm.
But what they lacked was, how do I efficiently use my time to maximize those benefits?
Mhm.
And so that's what I do with each individual. What are your unique strengths that you can lean into? But what are those opportunities to improve you to be better, the better marketer, the better operations person, the better salesperson?
Yeah, in sales, listen, everybody is in sales in some way, shape, form, or fashion.
I totally agree with that.
You know,
Totally.
we have so many facets of it, and I hate it because we get such a bad rap. But sales, get it out of your head that sales is a bad thing. The more that you can learn, the more that you can develop and learn about your organization, you have to, selling is how you're going to push the organization forward. Get that out of your head that sales is something that's negative. It's a good thing to be a seller, and it's also a force multiplier because you're going to be able to develop your people skills. You're going to be able to develop your communication skills. You will start to take your life so much more seriously when you know, hey, I'm selling myself in some way, shape, form, or fashion. In fact, speaking of that LA fitness manager, one of the things he actually made me do was a scavenger hunt. He gives me a list of like 100 things in the entire LA fitness. He goes, go find it. Go tell me what's underneath the weight room mat. Go tell me what's underneath the treadmill. Go tell me what's in the locker room. Go tell me what's in the sink. Like, dog. Like, and that I'm so thankful for him to this day because it developed my principles, it developed my mindset every single day after that. So, you know, with all that, David, I do want to be very respectful of your time. I appreciate you joining us. Tell us what's next. How can people follow you? What's the what is the best way that they can get in touch? And what do you see, like what's your next move as far as the Infinity lifestyle?
Well, first of all, thank you again. Such an honor to be here. They can go to my website, infinitylifestyledesign.com. Again, one word, infinitylifestyledesign.com.
Mhm.
On that page, first of all, there's the assessment I talked about. They can take a free summary assessment of it. So if they just scroll
Okay.
down the page, they
Got
can
it.
take the time management analysis and get an overview themselves of where they stand today. It's the foundational document I use with clients. So feel free to do that as a gift from me. What's next for me is I am excited by the fact that the financial services industry is not preparing their clients for life after work. And what I mean by after work, it doesn't mean the end of work. So
Yeah.
many people have this misnomer that I have to retire without work. And so those of your audience who are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s,
Yeah.
you need to be developing a lifestyle strategy that defines what your purpose is with or without work and
Wow.
own it. So if you want to work, own it for as long as you want to, but
Mhm.
develop that strategy around that. So that's been the second phase of my business that I'm looking forward to working with individuals, couples, and financial advisors with.
So what exactly would that look like? Because I've had multiple people on the show, and I've actually had conversations personally with several people that, you know, that 401k idea is kind of null and void. They're losing money and they don't have a 401k anymore. So when you say, you know, figure out what you want your lifestyle to be after retirement, can you dive a little bit deeper into what it may look like for somebody that's in their 40s and 50s?
Sure. Consider it this way. Consider what I call the 40% rule. If
Mhm.
you're working 48 hours a week right now, and if you're an entrepreneur, you're going, I wish I was working 48 hours a week because
This
you're
is
investing all this
I'm
time.
at this school. After this, then I go teach the kids, and then during all my breaks, I've been doing this. I'm like all day today. It's gonna be a full day.
Right.
You're one of four different podcast interviews I have today.
There you go. Okay. So just follow that. So 48-hour
Exactly.
rule,
Yeah.
that's 40% of your awake time.
Yeah.
So regardless of you're in career or thinking out of career, if you're in career, 40% of your, when your eyes are open, is structured because you have a career. If you
Hmm.
decide to move outside of that, you have to find 40% to fill that time. Now, if you are today saying, I'm trying to find more flexibility in life, then the idea with a lifestyle strategy is to say, first of all, what are my financial needs? And I'm not a financial professional. So I ask you, please go find one. If you need one,
Hmm.
go email me. I've got some great trusted partners.
Right.
But
And there's
once you
several
have
that have been
this
on this show as well. So just
supers, then go
it's
back
so
to the
good.
old episodes and look at them. I can't emphasize that enough because a really good financial professional
Mhm.
is going to make you think things you haven't thought about. So if you say, I can't retire, that may not be true. It may not be you can't retire when you think you can. You may have to extend it out to 70 years.
Mhm.
But if you want more flexibility, you'll get it. Then the idea is, given your circumstances, once you know that, then build a lifestyle strategy to that.
Yes.
Don't build your lifestyle strategy first, because if you're like, I want a mountain chalet in France as part of my retirement, and
Mhm.
you find I can maybe do a double wide in the hills of Georgia, you
Right.
got to figure out what reality is for you.
Yeah.
and build around that. Again, it's customized for what you want based upon how you want to invest your time. And to me, it's just finding your ultimate purpose in life. That from
Yeah.
that, everything else flows.
Yes, and it really is about your vision. And you guys, I cannot stress the importance. You gotta focus. You gotta focus. You gotta put some money away. You really gotta focus on the productive things. You cannot be spending your money aimlessly and just putting stuff out there. You have got to focus and build those assets. Those assets, not about the liabilities. No, you regular listeners may be tired of hearing me talk about the book, but I'm going to say it again. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. Put your
Very
money
good book.
assets. Yeah, thank you for confirming that. But I've talked about it so much on this show that the regular listeners like, all right, Aswan, damn, I'll get it. But make sure the assets and your liabilities, know the difference and put your cash in your assets. All right. So with all that being said, David, the final thing I do to close out all the shows is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. You are back to young David, figuring out the sales process. Picture that, pretend that, he's there, he's just trying to figure it all out. He's using his time aimlessly. He's just not being the man he is now. Pretend that the younger version of David has come into the Zoom room. Give him some words of encouragement and we'll officially close.
To my younger self, I would say, be more patient.
Yeah.
Whatever you have planned out, if it's important to you, add another 20 to 50% onto it, because things are going to change. You're going to need to adapt. You will ultimately get to your goal. It's just going to be a different road that you anticipate. So be patient.
Be patient. Be patient. I love that. I love that. All right. Again, this has been another great episode. You guys know how we roll over here in the Move Swiftly podcast. We do this. We come out every single day. There's no shortage of content, and you have no excuses not to get your life on track. All that being said, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.